Morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It is the beginning of the week, which means it's time for the Ticker Highlight Show. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. And I am joined by one, Leisha J. Leslie, the Queen of the Candles. She's coming to us from the Sunshine State. And Andrew T. Giovinazzi. He's coming us from the furthest east state in the Union. This week, we are looking at the elephant in the room, the one stock to rule them all. And that, of course, is Nvidia. And, you know, I want to start by just kind of laying the table for what they're looking for out of this stock. And it is impressive. What they're pricing in. So the stock is currently down about, call it a little over 2.5%, trading right at 126. It's running about a $14.50 straddle. So you're saying, Mark, what is a $14.50 straddle? So what that means, I'm going to use my favorite teaching tool, Microsoft Paint. All right. So imagine this is an option chart. It doesn't need to be perfect. All right. So there's my option chart. Looks great, right? I want that to stay black. So this is what the payout for a call looks like. I think we can all agree on that. You know, at the strike, that's my cost. And then above the strike, I start to make money. Now let's do a put. A put on the same strike is going to have a very similar payout. Make sure I start it this way. Gonna look like this. Lower it so that it matches. Beautiful. And then above the strike, it starts to make money. Well, now imagine if I bought this call and this put at the same time. What am I now betting on?
Am I not supposed to answer this?
Well, what I'm going to do is I will straddle equals the cost of the call plus cost of the put. And if I do that, take your screenshot now, folks. If I do that, I end up with a position that looks like this. I have my call. And I've got my put. So now what I'm making is essentially a straight bet on movement. I am betting that the underlying is going to move. A straddle is a bet that the underlying Nvidia is going to move. So, getting back to my Nvidia straddle of $14.50 based on the 126 strike, they are essentially when I say they, that means the powers that be, the big money that is trading enough size to move markets back and forth, are betting that Nvidia will move about $14.50, give or take, between now and next Friday, which basically means earnings. So let's just, to make math even easier, I'm going to round that up to 15. See how nice I am? I'm letting, we're turning this into second grade math. We're using rounding. So we're going to round our 1450 up, because everyone knows 0.5 and up, you round up. And we're going to say $15. So they're betting Nvidia will be somewhere between 111 and 141 between now and Friday, which basically is the earnings. You want to do the math on that? Straddle's about 12%. Now, there's a little bit of time after earnings, things like that, so that they take into account when they bet on the implied move. And so the implied move is a little bit less. It's about 10.5%. But if you ever want to know what they're expecting, looking at the weekly straddle is going to give you a very good back of the envelope estimate of how much we might move. Well, and let's look at what it's done over the last few quarters. You know, it's funny when it misses. When Nvidia misses, it moves less. At least since since the end of 2022, since 2 years ago. When Nvidia has missed, it has been down, call it about 2%. Small sample set. When it has beaten or gone up on earnings, outside of the 1 year ago today earnings, it has moved way more than expected. Now, here is the one thing I think is kind of interesting. Take a look at the implied move since August of 2022. So that would be every implied move leading into this quarter since 2022. Good 2-year sampling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will be the 8th quarter. So 5.8%, 7.6, 5.8, 6.6, 9.05, 6.17, 8.5, 7.8. We're currently at a 10.5. This is the largest expected move leading into an Nvidia earnings. And folks, I'm searching. All right. I am all the way back since 2011. All right. You have to go back to February of 2011. The very last sample that I have here. You have to go to the very last sample to find a earnings implied move as big as the one we currently have. And in that case, we moved a little bit less. Next closest is about 9.98. We moved a lot less. See if we can find any other really big guesses. Looking for over 9%. Over 9%, we dropped 18%. %, we move 5. So when we've got these big guesses, 9%, 0.1, 10%. So it's interesting when we've got these big expectations for movement, what do you notice? We move less. When we've got kind of smaller expectations, those are the times when we move more. So my belief is that Nvidia earnings are probably going to underwhelm. I don't know which direction they will go, but what I will say and what I did say is that, Nvidia keeps the stock keeps going up into its earnings growth, and that PE keeps going up. The last cycle, when Nvidia had its explosive growth, it was at a 62. So its market cap is over 3 trillion, and its price earnings ratio has gone up by 13. So I have some concerns, but I'm not looking for if it does miss, I don't think you're going to get a drop more than 3-4%. But I would not be looking for a blow the doors off rally on these earnings. Just based on the way things are pricing themselves and where Nvidia stock is currently. Now, here's where I could be wrong. I'm not a chart person, which is why we have one Queen of the Candles, Leisha J. Leslie, to guide us through the ins and outs of what the chart is telling us and what Nvidia could do on earnings. Leisha, take it away.
Well, Nvidia is trying to, can't make up its mind here. It was up against resistance on my previous pitchfork. Back here on last Monday, couldn't break through that, and now it's just consolidating. Pretty wide consolidation, though. You got 123.5 on the downside and, 130.34 on the upside. So wide consolidation, but it's still consolidating. Not sure where it wants to go. The median line comes in at 122.17. I thought this was a nice price target, 137.38. If it really goes nuts. On the upside, we got 153.73. And on the downside, we have, sorry, I should be over here. 107.87. So 122, 107, 137, and then 146, I would say. Could be any of the any or all of the above, right?
I think you could have some real resistance at the old high.
Oh yeah.
I think that's going to be where, and it happens. It's interesting that the old high runs right into also one of your pitchforks. Isn't that? It's amazing the way those things line up.
Yeah. Well, when it fails to make it all the way to the end of the pitchfork, it usually revisits the opposite end, and that's what happened here.
And there you have it. Well, you got any actual thoughts on the stock itself, Felicia, or?
I don't. Your 50 days right at the point of control down here, 120.89. No, it's consolidating. It's a guessing game, right? It's probably higher. Everybody loves it. It's usually higher, right? It's almost always higher.
It usually is, but it's interesting that when, as I was stating, it's interesting that when we've got these really big expectations, that's when it's kind of like
doesn't do it.
It kind of a big letdown one way or the other. I was a little surprised about that.
I was surprised like Thursday when I saw it. I mean, when I looked at the straddle last week, Mark, I think it was like 13.5, and you're telling me it's $14 and change now?
$14.50.
So it's up another $1.
It's going to be 15 by earnings.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, as far as the trade goes, I think that's really the only trade I can think of for just buy the straddle and close it the day before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we're going to have a trade here, but people want to know what we think and how to approach it. I'll kind of give my analysis. Why don't you want to share your views on where the implied volatility looks, and maybe if there is any value somewhere, where do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, a fairly difficult here. I'll share my screen, I guess, here. Like sometimes it's just not a trade for me.
Sometimes a
I hate
trade,
to
no
say
trade
that.
is a trade.
Huh?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, you've got kind of. Let me just fix the stock chart here. You have a lot of hyperbolic actions. Okay, so you've got like long-term vol. I mean, look at when you had this last earnings cycle here, you had your earnings cycle here. Why is your long-term volatility so dang high for this thing? It's pretty beefy. So I mean, post split, it's $126 stock. It's not, but even like, so you're going to see some adjustment in volatility somewhat as the stock price is lower. Generally, you're going to get a little higher vol. But when you look at it and you go, okay, I'm sitting out here, I'm going, let's say December at a 60 vol, the straddle's like $32. That's a third of the value of the underlying.
Yeah.
Or $34. It's like, well, I mean, in my head, I'm like, I'll sell it. It's just like, wait and see what happens. Although that's not a retail trade selling it, but I mean, that's like from a trade point of view, that's kind of what I would look at. Just because it's so gigantic. However, Nvidia can move easily $15 up or down without too big of a problem, I think. But that would be the largest move yet, I think, or one of the larger moves, right? So it's not a simple trade. Like, okay, sell the par put for $5 for a 5% return to December. Like trades like that kind of, but you have a couple of days to do it. I don't see anything immediate to do it. So that's kind of, that's like where I see what's going on. And Nvidia was just, $95. So again, it's such a pick'em thing into earnings. I don't.
Well,
and juice is very, like, overall, it's just very expensive. It's just as high as I've seen it priced in a while.
All right. Well, here I'll share my screen because I do want to share a couple thoughts from an investor standpoint. At moments like this is where things like a covered call can make a lot of sense for an investor. And you're saying, Mark, what do you mean by that? Let me pause my notifications on this screen just so I don't see that. The January, which is only 3 months away at this point, 3.5 months away, the January $150 calls are going to bring in almost $11. All right, so that would make my net sale price $161. That's what, $35 above where we are. That'd be another 30% upside from here. That's above not Leisha's first level, not Leisha's second level. That's Leisha's third level. That's above that you would be selling. And you're saying, Mark, I want to own Nvidia forever. Well, during these ebbs and flows, between now and January, Nvidia is up to 160. My guess is that's one of those opportunities that where during one of these ebbs and flows, we've gotten a kind of Christmas rally. Nvidia's gotten a big push, and then you'll get an opportunity to buy it back at maybe 140, 135, and jump back in. If you want to have if you want to have an in, then buy yourself a call above. Although calls above are ridiculous. So there is that. And now here's so in a moment like this, there is an opportunity to sell cover calls. And you're saying, well, Mark, I feel like I missed the boat on Nvidia. I never got an opportunity to invest. All right, well, here's an opportunity where selling puts makes some sense. Nvidia for $95, is that a level that that you would be willing to buy? That is a question you ask yourself. Well, the January $100 put is over $6. If Nvidia just goes up, you keep $600, 6% return over 4 months. Doesn't sound that great, but 6%, 6% times 3 is 18%. Find me a bond that's going to do that. And I'm not saying selling puts has bond-like returns. I'm just laying out that, it doesn't sound as great until you think about it, but it also gives one the opportunity to buy back in. Or if you want to be more aggressive, sell the 120 put at $13 and make your entry price 107. Or do a put spread. There are, with vol as high as Andrew just laid it out, ahead of earnings, if you are convicted, if you have a conviction to buy, these pre-earnings moments are an opportunity to engage that using option sales. Speaking of Nvidia earnings, and I will close on this. How would you folks like to trade Nvidia earnings for free with me and Olivia Vaz? Because Trade to Close is offering a 1-week free trial around Nvidia earnings. That's right. You're going to get five 1-hour sessions with me and Vaz for free. You'll get bombshells. We're going to trade Nvidia earnings. We're going to trade CrowdStrike earnings. It's going to be great. If you'd like to join us, and you should, you can join us on this no-risk trial right here. And obviously, new member, this is eligible to new members. You get to trade. You don't get to trade Nvidia. You get to trade with me and Vaz. You get to trade Nvidia with me and Vaz for free, not trade Nvidia for free. So with that, let's see if we have any questions in our last couple of minutes.
We also, the Amazon calendar spread, I closed that we talked about last week, and I've already closed the VIX puts we bought the week before, I think.
My Amazon December calls crushed. They went to like $18. I sold most.
My calendar spread, I'm like, woo! And those calls went up like $6.
What do I think about the SMCI split around Nvidia? Great, excellent question. Typically, if you look, post-split stocks drop. G-man. But at the bottom of those drops, they can be an opportunity to invest. But I would also point out that typically stocks don't announce a split and then drop from $1,200 to $571. So I would tread lightly here.
They're taking some heat out of that stock for sure.
All right. Well, folks, obviously next week is Labor Day. So our regular ticker highlight show will be on Tuesday instead of Monday. We are looking forward to seeing you then. So for Leisha J. Leslie, Queen of the Candles, and Andrew T. Giovinazzi, future Mountaineer, I am Mark Sebastian, your only option. Have a good one.
Take care, everybody.